All right, so if you're out there trying to build something new, or maybe you're just stuck on a really tough problem, we're going to dive into a mindset shift that honestly changes everything. It's all about moving from what you think is true to what you can actually prove is true with cold, hard data. I love this quote. It might be one of the wisest, but yeah, most painful things an innovator can ever hear. We all fall in love with our own ideas, right? We think they're brilliant. But when you're on the path of innovation, your personal opinion, it just doesn't matter. And that's not an insult, trust me. It's the very foundation you build success on. You know, it's funny how we give ourselves away with the phrases we use. We've all heard them, we've probably all said them. The fact of the matter is, or sincerely speaking, these are just opinions wearing a fancy costume. For a true innovator, there is only one source of truth, only one fact, and that's what you've managed to validate directly from your customer. Everything else, it's just noise. This is the mantra, right here. This is the phrase you should have on a Post-it note on your monitor. It just captures the whole innovator's mindset perfectly. It's not about being cynical, it's about being clinical. It means we stop having meetings where we argue over whose idea is better, and we start designing tests. Our gut feelings? Great, they're the starting line. But they are never, ever the finish line. The data is. And this really gets to the core of it. We're not just talking about a business tactic you use from 9 to 5. This is a total lifestyle change. It fundamentally shifts your vocabulary. You stop defending your ideas like they're a part of you. Instead, you start designing experiments for them. You go from saying, I believe this will work, to, my hypothesis is that this might work, let's test it. That changes the entire game. So, here's the really crucial part to understand. You're not building a business from day one. You're just running a series of experiments. To an outsider, it might look like you're building a product. But you, the innovator, you know the truth. You're just taking that wall of sticky notes, each one a little assumption, and you're systematically testing them, one by one, to see if they can survive in the real world. And that experimental approach, it actually has a name. We call it the innovation loop. It's super simple and totally repeatable. First, you start with an assumption. Something like, we believe our customers really struggle with X. Then, you design a test to check that. Third, you go collect data directly from them. And finally, you measure your results against a really clear line you drew in the sand beforehand. Did it pass or did it fail? And here's a perfect real-world example. The assumption was, hey, we can make our solution affordable if we partner with microfinance banks. Okay, great hypothesis. So what's the test? Easy. Go talk to 4 of them. And the pass-fail criteria? It's crystal clear. If at least half of them, 2 banks, sign a contract, then boom, the assumption is validated. It's not about feelings or good conversations. It's about a concrete, measurable outcome. Now this is such a powerful way to reframe everything. So what happens if that test with the microfinance banks doesn't work out? What if you can't get 2 of them to sign? Well, to the outside world, that might look like a total failure. But to the innovator, it's just progress. Let's completely redefine the word failure. It is not a dead end. It is simply an assumption that you've successfully invalidated. You now have priceless data that tells you, hey, don't go down this road. It's a waste of time. It saves you time, it saves you money, and man, it saves you a lot of ego. You just calmly pick up the next sticky note and design the next experiment. This is how you build resilience. Okay, so we've got the mindset down, we've got the process. But now for the tricky part. How do we actually create the tools, the surveys, the interview questions that are going to get us clean, actionable data? How do we make sure we don't just end up with a bunch of useless information? Well, here are 3 golden rules. Seriously, think of this as your essential toolkit for writing great validation questions. If you can get these 3 principles down, you will dramatically, and I mean dramatically, increase your chances of getting the insights you actually need to move forward. Let's break down rule number 1. Stay away from open-ended questions. If you ask someone, how much does this cost you? You're going to get a million different, messy, unusable answers. But if you frame it as a statement with a scale, like a Likert scale, you get clean, quantifiable data. You can instantly see the patterns. All right, rule number 2, get away from simple yes or no questions. A yes tells you almost nothing. It hides all the important nuance. Is this problem a tiny annoyance for them, or is it a major hair-on-fire problem? Using a rating scale helps you understand the intensity of the problem, and that is absolutely crucial for knowing what's worth solving. Now this one, rule number 3, this is the most subtle, but it's probably the most important. You have to stay in the problem space. The second you ask about your amazing hypothetical solution, like, would you like a tool that does X? You've biased the entire conversation. Right now, your job is not to sell a solution. Your job is to be a detective and deeply understand their current pain, their current reality. So what's the ultimate goal of all this digging and testing? Well, it's to find what we call the holy grail of innovation, an existing, deep-seated customer habit. You know, the biggest wins in business don't come from forcing people to learn a totally new behavior. They come from finding something people already do and just making it 10 times easier or better. This story is just a perfect illustration of that. There was a fintech company in Nigeria that wanted to build a savings product for women in the marketplace. Through their validation work, they discovered these women already had this powerful, centuries-old group savings system called Ajo. And here's the brilliant move. Instead of trying to replace it with something new, they just digitized it. They built their technology on top of the habit and social trust that already existed. And that story brings us to this core lesson. We get so focused on what other companies are doing, but our real competition, it's the customer's current habit, is their current workaround. If you can understand that and then build something that just slides right into it, man, you have an almost unbeatable advantage. So let's bring this all the way back around. This entire mindset, this whole process we've talked about, it's really all about one simple but profound shift in your language and your thinking. It's about earning the right to say the data shows by doing the hard work, instead of just defaulting to the easy way out, which is, I think. So I'll just leave you with this one question. That brilliant idea you have in your head, that project you're working on right now, let's be honest, it's just an unproven assumption on a sticky note. So what is the smallest, fastest, simplest experiment you can run to start turning that opinion into actual data? What's your first test?